Welcome back to the story. Let us continue on what I was just talking about the little ghost and what happens when the bigger ghost enters the door. After the bigger ghost, or the large ghost, came in from the door, he was very angry and he yelled at the shorter ghost, "How dare you steal the body away from me? I was the one who got it." But the shorter ghost said, "No, it's not yours. I'm the one who's got the body. Therefore, I should be the one who's entitled to enjoy the body." They continue with this heated discussion or the argument, and then suddenly the bigger ghost realized that there was a third being inside this temple, which was the traveler. So he pulled the traveler out and said, "Good, you're here. So please be the judge and decide who the body belongs to." And the traveler was thinking to himself, "Oh no, I was only here staying for one night. I'm just trying to get a night of sleep. And now that I've gotten myself into this trouble, if I say that the body belongs to the smaller ghost, the bigger ghost is going to rip me apart. But if I say that this body belongs to the bigger ghost, the smaller one wouldn't let me go easily either. Well, since I'm a Buddhist who practices the 5 precepts, I might as well just be honest." So he said to the 2 ghosts, "Well, I saw the smaller ghost coming in with the body first. Therefore, the body should belong to him." This made the big one very angry. He said he was so angry that he took a step forward and ripped off the right arm of the traveler. Well, upon seeing this, the smaller ghost thought that the traveler was only trying to help me. Maybe I shouldn't just see this happen. So he ripped off the right arm of the right body and then attached it to the body of the traveler. And this made the bigger ghost even more angry. So he ripped off the other arm. So the smaller one once again ripped off the left arm from the dead body and attached it to the body of the traveler. So this process went on. Whenever the big ghost ripped off the head of the traveler, the smaller one will give that traveler a new head and so on. They did it until the traveler got a brand new body. And it was also the moment when the sun came out. So the 2 ghosts left in haste, leaving only the traveler in his place, feeling confused. He looked at himself. "Well, this is not my hand, and this is not really my body. So who am I? I can still feel myself here, but this is not my body. So who am I?" He went on his journey thinking about this question. So this story demonstrates to us that whatever we see, anything solid we see in front of us, does not really represent ourselves. So that we do not really possess a nature of the self, since we are all a congregation of certain elements or conditions. In which Buddhism denies self-nature is by the fact that no phenomenon has a self-nature. Just as a human being does not have a self-nature, a phenomena do not have a self-nature either, because phenomena arise due to other phenomena or conditions. Therefore, when the causes and conditions that produce them are removed, all phenomena themselves will cease to be. Back to the example of the table again. If the conditions that created this table, the wood or the tree, even if the soil or water or sunlight is missing, then this table would not be here. And once these conditions go away, this table will cease to exist. Now let us talk about the third truth of the 3 Dharma seals, which is nirvana as the ultimate peace. Nirvana is a Sanskrit word for extinguished or gone out, which means just like how a candle flame goes out or how a candle flame is extinguished. Suffering is caused by delusion as well as belief in duality. Therefore, nirvana here becomes the cessation of delusion, or the cessation of duality as well as the belief in that duality, or the belief in a self. Nirvana also means the cessation of birth and death of that self we're talking about. It is also the cessation of belief in a permanent, absolute anything, anywhere. Now, nirvana is not a deluded state. When we try to come up with a description of what it is, we are, at the same time, moving away from the true essence of nirvana. So believing that there is only the start of another of delusive reasoning, while nirvana is the end of all of that, because it is the cessation of the delusion and suffering that all of us experience. If we really wish to understand what nirvana is, there are 4 ways to do so, especially from the Buddhist perspective. The first one is original nirvana. By looking at original nirvana, which is also known as originally pure nirvana or the pure self-nature nirvana. This is the original or fundamental nature of everything. So it could mean the Buddha mind that lies in the heart of everyone. And at this point, there would be no difference between a Buddha and an ordinary sentient being. The second is to look at nirvana without remainder. Nirvana without remainder is a state of an enlightened person who still has a body. So remainder here means with a body. So an enlightened person creates no karma. And since he creates no karma, why is he still in his body? This body is there because of the karma that he has created from the past. So therefore, he still has to endure the consequences of the karma that are created in the past. And at the same time, he's no longer creating any karma. This is a person who has attained nirvana with remainder. Therefore, even though he's enlightened, he still has to go through the physical trials of heat, cold, pain, sickness, old age, as well as death. The third thing is by looking at nirvana without remainder. Therefore, this is a state, means of an enlightened person who no longer has a body. So before we say remainder means with the body, therefore without remainder, then it becomes without a body. Still, a person who has attained nirvana without remainder has not yet attained the full understanding of the importance of compassion. So this person is someone who comprehends the essence of consciousness, but he does not comprehend the use of this consciousness. The final is by looking at nirvana without abiding. This is the state of an enlightened being who can enter a nirvana, but remains in this physical world out of the compassion for all living beings. Therefore, this is a person who has possessed full understanding of both the essence of consciousness as well as the understanding of the importance of compassionate intent. So this is a status of a Buddha or a Bodhisattva. Therefore, the status of nirvana that has been attained by the Buddhas or the Bodhisattvas. Nirvana without abiding is also a state of great Bodhisattvas who return to the realms of sentient beings' existence over and over again so that he too can help other people to attain the same status which he himself has done so. Some examples could be the Guanyin Bodhisattva or the Maitreya Bodhisattva. Nirvana means complete extinguishing of all defiled tendencies. This also means the emptying out the mind of the 3 poisons. Therefore, being in nirvana means complete understanding of both the essence and immensity of consciousness. Just like when the dust clears, the sky becomes clear and visible. And the Diamond Sutra tells us that nirvana is everywhere, and it can never be separated from the here and now. So nirvana is the Buddha nature that all sentient beings possess and have always possessed. When the Buddha first became enlightened under the Bodhi tree, he said the following: "How wonderful! All sentient beings everywhere possess the wisdom and merit of the Buddha. It is only due to their delusion and clinging that do not realize this for themselves. The moment they free themselves from delusive thinking, perfect knowledge of all things will come to them naturally. This quote shows the process of becoming enlightened is regarded as a process of reducing and finally eliminating the impurities that we have in our mind. Let us stop for a little while and stay with us. Welcome back. Buddhists say that to become enlightened is like having the dirt in a pond cleared, or waiting for it to settle down so that the pond becomes clear. It is also like wiping away the cloud that covers up the moon so that we can see the shiny disk itself. Therefore, the Buddha taught us the 3 Dharma seals to help us overcome our defilement. Consequently, by contemplating the 3 Dharma seals, we are able to free ourselves from the delusions that have been caused in our mind, because the 3 Dharma seals unhinge delusion at its 3 points. Also, the 3 Dharma seals teach us that everything is impermanent and does not have a nature of self. And at the same time, they teach us that contemplating these truths, or these 3 seals, should not make us despair, because all things are also nirvana. After discussing the details of the 3 Dharma seals, let us now look at how we can understand the 3 Dharma seals. Emptiness, impermanence, and suffering in Buddhism are not really pessimistic views. The reason that the Buddha taught us this truth is to help us understand the true nature of delusion, of how they actually come about. Therefore, once we see delusion for what it is, we'll want to settle down or wipe it away so that higher levels of awareness can be born. The 3 Dharma seals should never make us despair. Instead, they should bring us a lot of hope. And I can demonstrate this by the following 3 points. The first one is that only impermanence can give us hope. Impermanence doesn't mean just the good turning into bad, because as true as this can be, what is bad can also be turned into something that is good. Therefore, if it comes to a time of setback or difficulty, we must bear in mind that these bad things can always change for the better, so we must never give up our hope in life. If we're poor, impermanence can teach us that our circumstances will not last forever. And if we meet with hardship or tragedy, impermanence then teaches us that one day things will change for the better. Therefore, impermanence tells us that nothing ever stays the same. It teaches us that things must change for the better if we put in the right effort to make things better. By contemplating impermanence, we will learn to treasure what we have in our limited time. Impermanence should also inspire us to progress, to study, and to learn, because it teaches us that now is the time to act, because this is the time that we really have now. Imagine if you were to have a bank. This bank gives you an amount of money of $86,400 each day in the morning. And this money is up to you to use. But at the end of the day, no matter how much money you have used, what is left will be taken away. So your account goes back to 0. And then on the next day, you get another amount of $86,400. And the same thing, if you don't spend it during this day, it goes away. If you had such a bank account, what would you do? You would naturally spend it all, right? So what do you think this bank account is? Think carefully. It is the bank account of our time. Therefore, this tells us that we have very limited time each day, and if we don't make the best out of each second, it will be wasted. So it is important for us to seize the day. The second point we must bear in mind is that no self-nature teaches us how to cooperate. Therefore, the basic reason Buddhists emphasize the lack of a self in anything is to help us get past that devotion or that attachment to our body and the self, or the deluded belief that this body proves that there is some absolute self somewhere inside the body. By contemplating the second Dharma seal, it teaches us how to break hold of self-love. Just as a human body is produced by conditions, it is made up of nothing more than physical and mental components. When conditions bring these components together, a body is formed. But once these conditions disperse, the body ceases to exist. Therefore, there is no self-nature or absolute self present anywhere inside this body. However, no self does not mean that you are not here or you do not exist. The truth of no self-nature should be used when it can help us understand life, but it should not become a prison that is used to distort our views on life or give us an excuse to stay away or run away from life. Therefore, the second Dharma seal teaches us how to get along with others, because it shows very clearly that just as we are sustained by many conditions, others are so too. Just as we need others, others need us too. When we see them as us, we will see ourselves as a part of a much larger life, and only then we will understand the truth of the second Dharma seal. The final point here is that nirvana is the ultimate refuge. I have to emphasize that nirvana is not only achieved after death, because it can be attained in the immediate moment. And nirvana means to be free from all shackles of delusion. So to be in nirvana, it means we are beyond time and space, we're beyond all delusions, and we're beyond all duality, all fear, and all particularity. To understand the third Dharma seal is to understand that both the base and the goal of consciousness, to understand the base and the goal of conscious existence. Nirvana is the pure self we seek. It is the Buddha mind. It is the true mind that lies at the center of our life, as well as all of the Buddha's teachings. Therefore, we do not have to wait till death to experience nirvana, as nirvana can be experienced within this very moment. Life is but a few short years, so clouds change with the blowing of wind, and all are nothing but dreams. Just as the following says, even if there are thousands of mansions, no one can only take up so much space as 8 feet at a time to sleep in. Even if there are 1,000,000 acres of good fields, the food for a day that we can take is only a few caddies. As we face such a limited span of life, if we can attain enlightenment and achieve nirvana, we will break through the barrier of time and space and let life pervade the entire universe, so that life, in fact, can reach the 3 periods. The 3 periods which are lives in the past, lives in the present, and lives in the future. Life can also travel in all directions, because life can be ubiquitous and it can remain free from the fears caused by death and impermanence. It can also remain active in the unlimited wilderness of time and space. Therefore, we should hold the following views of nirvana: that nirvana is the ultimate home of life, that happiness of nirvana is not achieved after death. Instead, it can be attained in the immediate moment. The proper understanding of nirvana can also lead us to attaining the ultimate truth of permanence, bliss, selfhood, and purity. It can also lead to the understanding of the wonderful truth of nirvana, which was propagated and as well as attained by all the Buddhas. This is what we should know as practitioners of Buddhism. Therefore, these are the ideas and the spirits we should have about the three Dharma seals. Just bear in mind, nothing about the teachings of the Buddha are pessimistic. Rather, he's only trying to bring us into the truth of life. He's only trying to show us how the suffering is caused and enable us to see through the cause and conditions and build a better future for ourselves. Therefore, this is our discussion on the three Dharma seals. And let me end today's program by revising the three Dharma seals once again. The three Dharma seals in Chinese is 三法印. And the first truth of the three Dharma seals is all phenomena are impermanent, which means 诸行无常. Second is that no phenomena has a self, 诸法无我. And the third is that nirvana is the ultimate peace, which in Chinese comes down to 涅槃寂静. Therefore, this is our discussion on the three Dharma seals today. If you're interested in any of these materials, we have produced these programs into VCDs and further text information. And if you would like to get a hold of them, feel free to contact us. And in the meantime, we'll stop here and hopefully we'll see you next week. Goodbye.